Hey guys, MCU Collector here with another video. This is the third video in the Hasbro Marvel Legends series Spider-Man Wave 12 Molten Man Build-A-Figure from Far From Home. We have here the Doppelganger Spider-Man. So interesting figure. I can tell you right now it's just going to be an okay figure. It's going to be very similar to the 6-arm Spider-Man figure that was not well received at all because it reuses a lot of the parts. But we're going to take a look at it. It's an interesting design. But we'll talk about it as it's out of the package. But it looks pretty cool in package. See here it says Doppelganger Spider-Man down at the bottom. We get the Spider-Man logo, Molten Man, the spider logo at the top. Side artwork of Doppelganger looks awesome. I really love the red and blues. Really gets the package to pop when it's out on the shelf or hanging on some pegs. So pretty cool. Here we have another look at that image of Doppelganger. We have some bios, which we'll get to in a second. Here we have the Molten Man, all the figures in the wave to build him. Let's get right to it and read that bio. Doppelganger Spider-Man, an evil, mindless duplicate of Spider-Man infused with supernatural energy by the Demogoblin. The 6-armed Doppelganger has deadly claws and can shoot razor-sharp webbing. So very interesting. So I'm not real familiar with him. I'm going to check out some info to kind of have a little bit of background on the character. Now, when I was a kid for the Amazing Spider-Man animated series, that line of figures by Toy Biz, they did release a Doppelganger Spider-Man figure. I had that figure. I love that figure. One thing about that one is he was much bulkier than Spider-Man, and this figure just is not bulky in any kind of way, so I thought it was an odd choice. It's the cheap route for Hasbro to do for sure, instead of giving us a different mold, to get that torso with the 6 arms, but interesting nonetheless. There it is. Here is the UPC for all of you guys. This wave is starting to show up at Walgreens. I have been getting them one at a time. So here's the second one. 4 more to go. Let's get right to it and take Doppelganger out of the package. Okay, and here is the Doppelganger Spider-Man figure out of the package, and he looks just okay. You can get him into some interesting poses, and he's going to be alright. The only accessory he comes with is the right arm to the Molten Man Build-A-Figure, and this thing is looking very interesting. I still don't know how I feel about the Build-A-Figure. Again, it's going to really depend on how it looks all built together, but so far I'm not impressed from what we've seen in trailers of Molten Man. He isn't really gold, so we'll see how that's and what's going on. So might be a disappointing one, but it's a movie figure, so that makes me happy in that sense. We'll kind of have to see. So we'll put that Build-A-Figure piece out in the corner along with the Molten Man Build-A-Figure head. So we'll place that over there, and then let's take a closer look at the Doppelganger figure and talk about what I don't like about the figure first, and then we'll talk about what I do like, which, I'll be honest with you, there's not a whole lot. Okay, so the first thing I want to make mention of, so the sculpted hands on this guy are new. We haven't seen those before because he has 3 fingers, or 2 fingers and the thumb, if you want to get real technical. Now, my biggest problem so far with that is looking at the back of the package, which I'll bring in here. If you look, whoever did the artwork, he clearly has a thumb and 4 fingers. But this figure, he's got 2 fingers and a thumb, so 3. What happened to the 4? So I don't know where the disconnect on that was. It would look much better with 4. The 3 look very odd. Now, other issues that I have with the figure is that this jaw. So I understand why it was done this way, but looking at the jaw, you can see that there is a cut right there because the lower jaw is a separate piece. Now, from far away, it doesn't look bad, but when you look at it on the side, that seam is very noticeable. The reason why that's done is because to do the open mouth like they do, that has to be done. So I appreciate the effort in that sense, but we have seen some seams where it's not as bad. It's just a little bit more noticeable on this guy. So it's not the end of the world. However, I prefer, when that doesn't happen, but again, not so bad. The teeth are white. It's just black inside the mouth. And then the eyes are a white color, almost kind of a silver color. So kind of pearly, looks like a little bit of shine to it. Looks pretty good. We get a dark blue and a dark red for the suit, as opposed to the 6-arm Spider-Man, which actually had a very bright red and a very bright blue. So major difference there. of course, the arms here, it's the same as the upper arm, so all three on the side, all three there, they're all the same arm, whereas this one had bare arms, and these shoulder joints, even on the additional arms, were sculpted different. These arms are the exact same, and they just switched up the hands, so that is a major difference from this figure as well. But other than that, there's really nothing else. So new hands, and it repeats the use of the arms, and then the feet are kind of funky, very, very funky, actually. The way they're shaped, so you kind of have two heels to it. It's very weird. So you have to be careful on how you're getting it to pose, especially if you're using a dial, because these claws, these toes, they're going to poke right into that foam, so be very careful. That's kind of happened on mine. So it's kind of weird, but you get crazy movement in there, and I'll go over the articulation here pretty soon. So you want to be careful with that. So because of that, he's not super difficult to stand, but to get him to stand upright is kind of funky, and you can see he's kind of leaning to the side. He's not really straight up. It's just because it's kind of awkward to move those feet around and do that kind of thing. Now we'll zoom out and we'll take a look at the articulation. Okay, so before we go over the articulation, I did a little bit more research and checked out some additional images. So the 3 fingers is correct. So the artwork on the package, I guess, just wouldn't be as awesome as it looks. It is just not accurate. He does not have 4 fingers, even though, again, I think the artwork is pretty awesome. So only 3 fingers. So the figure is accurate. And then he has kind of a confusing history. So technically, I guess he was created by the Magus, but the Demo Goblin recreated him, and to the point where he can actually stay in Earth Dimension. It's kind of complicated in some things in the quick read that I just did, but a little bit interesting. So anyway, let's get right to the articulation. So the head, he can look down, even though it doesn't really look like he's looking down. I guess he's kind of looking down. He can look all the way up, which is good. It's just his head is shaped kind of odd. You get some pivot in there, not a whole lot, and then of course you get a full swivel. Now there is no torso ab crunch in this figure. It uses a lot of the same parts from the Amazing Spider-Man figure, except the torso was changed because this does have an ab crunch, whereas this one does not. But the legs were the same, and then the arm, not the arms. I guess the upper shoulder would be the same, but the rest of the arm, yeah, you know what? Actually, they are. The rest of the arms are completely the same for the suited portion. So each shoulder can move, so we're going to see what we could do here. So this shoulder it's going to go, that's as far up as it's going to go. So that's kind of its resting place. So you can get it to move down. It's just that, the other arms and stuff are going to get in the way of that. So you kind of want to keep this one up, really. And then it also has an upper bicep swivel there. You get a double jointed elbow, which works out pretty good. And then you get a swivel at the wrist, and then it hinges as well. So now, let's see, going over it, there are 2 different hand types. So you have the open claw hands and the fist hands. So on the right side, his right, not on the left side of the video, his right, 2 fists and an open. On the left side, you have 2 open and 1 fist. So there's 3 of each, and they just kind of mixed it up a little bit on the figure. Now going for this middle shoulder, so there's a hinge, so you can kind of do it that way and then bring it down, and then it just, again, it's going to get kind of weird when you want to move it with some of the other arms. So a lot of these shoulder ones you're going to kind of keep up so you can actually get to move on there. And then because it's the same exact arm, you're going to get the same exact articulation in there. Same thing's going to be on this one as well. You can kind of move that one up, but a lot of times you're probably going to have this one down. But you could move it up if you want. It's just these 2 are pretty close the way they do it, so it's kind of difficult in there. But it can be done, and they're just kind of sitting on top of each other there. You just have to kind of move it around to whichever way you're going to want to get it. So no waist swivel in addition to no ab crunch, but the legs go very far apart. It can kick forward a lot, and then goes back actually a little bit, whereas a lot of them don't actually do that. You get an upper thigh cut there. It's kind of stiff, so you got to work it. A double jointed knee, which actually works out perfectly, I feel. There is a boot swivel there, and then the foot, which is a very odd foot, hinges all the way down. hinges up quite a bit. I wouldn't say all the way up, but it does have a very good hinge. And you have a very good working pivot. So, but it's just the position of both these feet to get him to stand up straight. You kind of have to work, because you see, and then you have to manually do it, because you can't use like the force of pushing the feet down onto the platform, depending on what surface you're using. Because I'm using a diorama floor that's made out of foam, I can't do that. So again, it's a little tricky on how you're going to want to get him to stand. So you just kind of have to work around it. So the articulation is decent. You know, it's not the best. We've seen the same thing with the 6-arm Spider-Man figure. Again, this has not been a popular figure. At least with this one, you actually get a Build-A-Figure piece, whereas the 6-arm Spider-Man you did not in the Kingpin wave. So it's kind of interesting. But decent figure nonetheless. As far as the bulkiness and size that I was referring to, you know, based on the animated series figure by Toy Biz, he was a little bit bulkier, and some of the artwork, depending on which one you're looking, he's not really bulkier. So I guess it would be accurate in that sense. However, when you look at a figure like the Pizza Spider-Man, which, you know, again, is in my opinion the best Spider-Man figure, or actually technically the Raft Spider-Man would be my favorite of the Spider-Man red and blue figures. But I prefer this type of body style. It's where it is slender, it's not super thin. So my biggest complaint is actually just these legs. They're extremely thin. So I wish the legs were a little bit thicker. And then in that vein, the arms probably should be too. It's just, you know, the use of the movie figure body mold is just, I feel, an odd choice. Whereas if they used, you know, this mold and then just maybe the new torso to give it to the arms, even if the ab crunch still isn't there, I would prefer these proportions, you know, on the limbs versus this one. But it is what it is, you know. I can't, you know, there's no change in that. Can't do anything about it now. You know, complaining is not going to do anything or solve anything. So it's interesting. So here they are together. And, you know, not even in matching colors. Not that that would matter. But there they are. And that's my figure review on the Doppelganger Spider-Man. You guys let me know down in the comments below. Are you guys going to pick up this figure? Did you even get this one? Do you like it? Is it keeping you away from getting this one? I'm curious. Let me know. Also, if you guys like the video, hit that thumbs up. Subscribe if you have not already done so. And as always, guys, thank you for watching.